So I debated on opening this review with the Snoochie Boochies, but I realized even more so just that it would sound incredibly lame coming from me. So you know, better judgment prevailed, and so I figured a simple "Hey guys, Ryan Reed" would suffice. So hey guys, Ryan Reed. So yes, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is out technically. We just had the two Fathom events, October 15th, and yesterday was October 17th, I believe, and that was the Fathom event I was at. Now they are doing the Jay and Silent Bob Reboot Roadshow, which you can go see. You can check out. I believe it's rebootroadshow.com. If not, I'll put up the correct website down below. But yes, you can go see it. Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes are out on the road right now, touring, or they're about touring across the country, and you can see that this is obviously not a paid promotion. I just really like their work. I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. I like pretty much all of his movies, at least all the ones he's written and directed. I haven't seen some of his shows he's directed for TV, some of the Supergirl episodes and stuff. But as far as Kevin Smith movies proper, I'm a huge fan, and I wasn't sure what to expect out of this. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was the first Kevin Smith movie I ever saw, which really makes no sense when you break it down. It is a movie that is specifically aimed at its audience with references to, at that time, 4 other movies that you really kind of had to have seen to get everything that's going on in the movie. But I was at that age where some neighbors had rented it when it came out on DVD, and I was watching it with them, and I loved it. I loved that movie. It introduced me to a whole different style of filmmaking, things that I ultimately love whenever I write. I love characters who talk, who monologue, who feel very natural, and most of Kevin Smith's movies are that. And even now, his more kind of recent films like Tusk and Yoga Hosers, which are a more weird, broader comedy, dark comedy, body horror movies at times, they still have his voice. And, that taught me a lot about filmmaking and about what you can say through characters, how characters can speak, and how you can get your voice heard through other characters, through movies. But that's totally besides the point. Let's get to what you're actually here for, which is the review for Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which I really liked. Last night was the Fathom event where they had a double feature with Strike Back. Strike Back I've seen so many times that I could quote that movie in my sleep. But it was cool to see them back to back and really see how different they are and how much Kevin Smith has evolved as a filmmaker. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, he's just changed, he's grown. To see that evolution was really cool. Strike Back obviously is a big cartoon of a movie. It doesn't take itself seriously, it is exactly that. It's a cartoon. It's a live action cartoon with 2 stoner characters as its center. And it works incredibly well with that. Some things are a little dated. They don't fit in as well in a modern telling, which another cool thing about Reboot is obviously we can take these characters into a modern age. But other than that, the movie still holds up incredibly well. I still love all the cameos. There's so many jokes. It has a lightning fast pace. It works really well. And juxtaposed next to, or right, I guess, following, juxtaposed with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, it's interesting to see. It's a vastly different movie. Now, it's still a Jay and Silent Bob movie. It's still a stoner movie. It's still got crude humor. It's still going to have a lot of, cursing and things like that in it. So if you're not a Kevin Smith fan or if you're not a fan of those movies, this is not going to change your mind. However, what this film does is it's got a real emotional weight to it. And it's taken in a very different direction. Kevin Smith has spent a lot of time out there right now saying that Reboot is exactly that. He originally started with the idea, which was, what if we take Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and we're in a reboot remake culture right now with films, and what if he just remade the entire movie? Jay and Silent Bob have to go into Hollywood again to stop a movie being made about them again. And it takes that premise, that very base premise of, yes, there is a movie being made, it's a remake, it's now called Blunt Man v. Chronic instead of, making fun of Batman v. Superman. But it takes that premise and goes in a completely different direction. It starts off similar enough. The way I would describe this movie is that it is a broad comedy with very emotional beats. And I mean that in the best possible way. Whereas Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is a cartoon movie, live action cartoon. This is a broad comedy with emotional weight. And the reason I say that is because there are very cartoony moments in this movie. There are very over-the-top moments, but it's a lot more grounded than Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is. That film, Strike Back, is very over the top and ridiculous, and there are moments where people will wink and nod at the camera a lot more. It deals with more ridiculous situations, and this film, it does, but in a different way. If you've seen the trailers of this movie, again, I'm going to get into minor spoilers, but I'm going to avoid the majority of things. But if you've seen the trailer, you already know the movie is about Jay and Silent Bob have to go and stop a movie being made about them in Hollywood. Again, stop a remake of the original Blunt Man and Chronic movie. But along the way, Jay discovers that he has a daughter. Him and Justice from the first movie had a daughter he didn't know about, and she's now 18, and he discovers that she even exists. He didn't even know. And so a lot of the movie is about Jay finding out if he's a good dad or not, if he could be a dad, if he's ready to be a dad. Which, on paper, you think about it, you're like, that doesn't... What? And we're going to take our stoner characters, the ridiculous characters that kind of haven't aged. Of course, the actors have, but in terms of their maturity level and stuff, we're going to take that and we're going to give it some emotional weight. But it works really well. It's nice to see Jay and Silent Bob evolve. The last time we saw them on screen, besides they did an animated film a while ago called Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy Cartoon Movie. So excluding that, the last time we really seen Jay and Silent Bob was Clerks 2, back in 2006, I believe. It's crazy to think that now we're going to take these characters and see what they're up to. And all credit to Jason Mewes in this movie. Obviously, Kevin Smith, writer, director still, he's still playing Silent Bob. It is still ultimately his voice, his words. But Kevin Smith has also said that a lot of the big inspiration for this movie was that Jay actually became a father about 4 years ago. This was his way to showcase how good of a father the real Jason Mewes is. This was taking a character for the film and saying, well, let's give that character a daughter, and how does it change it? How does he stay the same? What makes the movie different? And as what I started saying was all credit to Jason Mewes, because he puts in a really, really, really good performance in this movie. And I know I've seen some people say, well, Jason Mewes plays the same character in every movie. I actually read a review where, even though they were complimenting him, it was like a very kind of two-sided compliment, in that they were like, well, a lot of the emotional weight comes from Jason Mewes, but he's never going to win an Oscar or anything. And are we in a world now where performance is ranked by Oscar? I mean, I get that the Oscars are a big thing and they're a big way to represent filmmaking, but that doesn't mean that a performance can't be great. And Jason Mewes is very vocal about he likes playing this character. He wanted to come back and play Jay again. So if somebody's playing the same character but they enjoy the role, they want to come back to it, and they can bring something new to it and showcase what they really can do, what's so wrong about that? I mean, that's awesome. I love that. I love that aspect. And there are moments, part of the tour, or part of the Fathom event, Kevin Smith has a little intro where he's like, oh, you might shed a tear during the movie. My eyes welled up a little bit. There are some really, really sweet, touching moments. And again, that's what I like about this movie. I like that, although I love the premise of just remaking Strike Back, I love that this film is not bad. I love that this film is its own thing. And yeah, maybe that's a way to get people in the seats to say, hey, we remade the same movie. Do you remember this movie from 2001? Hey, we remade it. But then presenting them with a different movie, presenting them with a movie with a lot of emotion behind it. A movie with a lot to say, honestly, about family and maturity and a lot of different themes from a movie where our main characters are known from standing outside of the Quick Stop and selling weed, and we get a really, really cool emotional core to this movie, and I really loved that. I liked that a lot, and it caught me off guard. No, there were some things about the movie I hesitate to say I disliked. They were just different. Again, I was going in expecting Strike Back Again. And because it wasn't Strike Back Again, and I was pleasantly surprised it wasn't Strike Back Again, there are some things that are kind of the Strike Back way of presenting things, but they don't work as well here. But that's also on me. There are cameos in this movie, like Strike Back had. There aren't as many cameos, which is good. They're not taking away. The ones that work really well are hilarious. There's some, again, I don't want to spoil anything, although if you follow Kevin Smith on Instagram or whatever, he spoiled a lot of them. But just in case you haven't, there's some really, really great ones. Some big names are in this very small movie. I believe the budget was only like $10 million, which for, a film with a very strong fan base, there's not a lot of money. And so it's cool that a lot of these people show up. Some of them didn't work for me, but that's on me. And I think that's because there's some people that were more modern people, and I didn't know them. I look back at Strike Back, and I'm like, oh, I know all these cameos. Reboot, there are people in it where I'm like, I had to look up, I'm like, who's that person again? Oh, alright, I kind of know them, they played so-and-so. But... So there are some... Now, of course, the cameos from people I grew up with in my generation and stuff, yes, I do recognize those people. But the ones that were more modern actors or on TV shows that I don't watch or things like that, I had to be like, I don't know who this is, but, I'll look it up. That does not take away from the movie. That's just me wanting to go in and see, like, oh, here's a bunch of cameos from people I know, and... then, being a little disappointed where I'm like, I think this is supposed to be a cameo, but I don't know who that is. That's on me, though. The other thing about the movie that I will say, and this is a minor thing, is that I realized last night I had such a good time with it. And I was like, I left, and I was like, awesome, that was so much fun. And then like an hour or two later, I realized that they never really resolved the inciting incident. So... minor spoiler, because there's no other way to say it, but it happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie, so they can't use their names anymore. And so because of that, they are like, well, we gotta stop this movie, so da-da-da-da-da, et cetera, without spoiling a bunch of stuff. But that's never really resolved. Unless I totally missed something, that one thing that kind of sets them off, the big picture of the movie, like, hey, we got the Blunt Man and Chronic reboot, what are we gonna do about that? That's kind of resolved. But that main little thing that's kind of important, again, I might have missed something, but I don't think it's resolved. If I did miss it, please let me know in the comments down below. The other thing about the film is that there are some really meta jokes. I mean, even more so than Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which had, again, winking moments at the camera where, they would turn and look and be like, yeah, we're in a movie, we get it. There are meta jokes in this movie that are set up as just that, they're jokes. But when you really start to think about them and overanalyze them, they kind of break down the View Askew-universe, in a sense. It's so hard to talk about it without spoiling it. So if anybody wants like a second video, let me know. Give me a heads up, because I'll do a spoiler video. But basically there are jokes in here that if you just look at them as jokes, as moments of like, and you don't overanalyze them like I was doing, and you just look at them and you go, it's a funny joke. That works really, really well. But then when you really think about the joke, you're like, okay, so that means that this exists in this universe, which means that it basically becomes a snake eating its own tail type of thing, which, again, it's there for a laugh. It's Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was a big cartoon movie. This is trying to kind of go for some of those broader comedy beats. The reason it's a bit more jarring to me is because it is such more of an emotionally weighted film. It's more grounded in a lot of moments, like Clerks 2 or Dogma or things like that, but it doesn't blend quite as well as those movies. So because of that, you'll have a really like emotional moment, and then all of a sudden, a really broad meta comedy beat which works in the moment. I was laughing, but then I was like thinking back later, like, well, that doesn't add up. Now suddenly this is this, and then, so anyway. But those are minor gripes. The film overall works really, 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 really well. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, there are a few jokes that don't land, but it's moving at such a quick pace that doesn't really matter. You don't have moments of like giant lulls where you're like, good lord, when's this joke gonna end? Overall, everything at least got a little chuckle out of me. Again, if you're not a Kevin Smith fan, or if you're not a fan of crude humor, or you're not a fan of stoner humor, or you're not a fan of consistent foul language, you don't like that? This movie's not going to change your mind. If you don't like Kevin Smith, this movie is not going to change your mind. It is made for the fans. It is 100% hands down made for fans of the View Askew universe. And that's okay. There are callbacks to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. There are winking moments at the camera. There are characters from all of his movies, including movies from, you know, the True North trilogy, which is his like Canadian like weird horror movie, you know, films that he's been making lately, like Tusk and Yoga Hosers. There's characters from that. There's characters from Zack and Miri Make a Porno. They've brought that into the Askew universe, so he's interconnecting everything again, and it's really cool to see. But if you don't like Kevin Smith, oh boy, you are not in for a good ride. If you are a Kevin Smith fan, please do yourself a favor. Go see this in any way you can. Support it in the theater. Support their roadshow. See it on whenever it comes to VOD or on Blu-ray. Pick it up. Give it a shot. You'll be pleasantly surprised. If you're expecting Strike Back again, a 100% retelling of Strike Back, you're not going to get that. If you're expecting its own thing with kind of exactly as the title is, it's a reboot. They describe what a reboot is in the movie. I won't, again, no spoilers on the joke, but it really does kind of fit this movie as to what it is. And ultimately, what it is a lot of fun. So, highly recommend. Please go see Jay and Silent Bob Reboot if you can. Also, please subscribe to this channel. If you like these type of videos, I've got all kinds of them. I have more impromptu reviews, which is just me reviewing whatever I've seen lately at home or in theaters or whatnot. You can also check out Fright Films, which is my horror movie review show. I just did a video on my top 5 Halloween programming blocks from when I was growing up. That's a really long title, but it is the best way to describe the content within. So check out that video if you're a fan of Halloween. You can also check out the Paranormal Tapes, which is my true life interviews with people I know with their stories of the supernatural. You can also check out some of my food reviews, all kinds of stuff on the channel. So please subscribe for more content. As all the YouTubers say, ring that bell to get notified, and I will see you in the next video. All right, take care everyone, bye.